It's strange, isn't it? The way we all get pulled into this invisible race. You don't remember when it started, but suddenly you're running towards something. A better job, a bigger apartment, a six-figure salary, a vacation that looks good on Instagram. You don't question it because everyone else is running too. It's normal, expected. You wake up, scroll through your phone, answer a few emails before breakfast, and you tell yourself, just a little more, and then I'll finally be there. I'll finally be enough. But no one ever tells you where there actually is. You just keep moving the finish line. There was a man, mid-30s, East Coast, decent job in tech. Smart guy. Came from nothing. Built everything himself. By the time he hit 34, he had the kind of life that most people spend their 20s dreaming about. The job, the apartment in a high-rise, the weekend brunches, the gym membership, the car he always wanted since college. On the surface, he was killing it. To anyone watching, he had made it. But inside, he felt tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, the kind that lives in your bones, the kind that whispers at night. Is this it? He tried to silence it by doing what he'd always done, setting another goal. Maybe I need a side hustle. So he started one. Maybe I need a bigger apartment. So he got one. Maybe I need to travel more. So he booked flights, took pictures, posted stories. And still, when it got quiet, when the notifications stopped buzzing and the crowd disappeared, there was this lingering emptiness, a feeling that he had somehow drifted away from himself, that he had everything he was supposed to want, and yet he couldn't feel any of it. One night, after a particularly long day of pretending to care about meetings that didn't matter, he came home, dropped his keys on the counter, and just stood in silence. The city lights flickered through the windows, his phone lit up with emails, texts, invites, but he didn't reach for it. He just stood there, finally honest enough to admit, I don't know who I am without the noise. That's when something shifted. He didn't run off to Bali or start microdosing or join a cult. He did something simpler and harder. He stopped. He took a week off, not to travel or party, but to stay home, alone. No work, no calls, no screens, just stillness. And in that stillness, all the things he'd been running from, memories, regrets, questions, insecurities, started rising like smoke from a fire that had been burning quietly for years. At first, it was terrifying. His mind kept pulling him toward distraction. Just check your phone once, scroll a little, call someone. But he didn't. He stayed. Saturday breathed, listened. And what he heard wasn't comforting. It was real. He realized that somewhere along the way, he had traded meaning for momentum. He was always moving, but never arriving. Always achieving, but never feeling. He had become a machine built to perform in public, but completely disconnected in private. Then he remembered reading something about Marcus Aurelius. Not the emperor version in marble statues, but the man, alone in his tent, writing meditations in the dead of night, while commanding the Roman Empire. A man who had everything, yet still needed to remind himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He realized that even the most powerful man in history knew the real enemy wasn't the world, it was your own untrained mind. So he started writing too, not for followers, not for likes, just to confront his own thoughts. He journaled about the moments he'd ignored, the pain he hadn't processed, the person he used to be. And slowly, painfully, he started finding clarity. He wasn't burned out from work. He was burned out from pretending, from constantly trying to become someone more, instead of just being someone real. After that week, he didn't dramatically quit his job. He didn't sell all his belongings and disappear into the woods like some romantic ideal of minimalism. That's not how real change works. It's not loud. It's not cinematic. Real change is quiet. It's subtle. It's a series of small intentional decisions that slowly begin to shift the shape of your life. He returned to work, but he wasn't the same man who had left. Something had shifted, not on the outside, but deep within. He moved differently. He listened more. He no longer jumped at every request, every invitation, every urgent email. He stopped saying yes out of guilt or fear of missing out. He learned the power of a quiet, unapologetic no. And with every no, he reclaimed a piece of himself. He stopped chasing titles because he realized the ladder never ends. You think you're climbing toward freedom, but the higher you go, the less of yourself you recognize. One day you wake up and realize you've spent years becoming a stranger, one who smiles for performance, who plays roles he didn't audition for, who builds a life that looks perfect on paper but feels hollow at the center. He didn't want that anymore. So he made space, not just in his calendar, but in his soul. Every morning, before the world barged in with its demands and deadlines, he carved out a small sanctuary of time. 15 minutes. That's it. No music, no notifications, no scrolling, no agenda, just him and the silence. At first, those 15 minutes felt awkward, like staring at a stranger in the mirror. But slowly, that silence turned sacred. In that quiet space, he could hear the faintest whisper of something true, something old, something familiar. Himself. He remembered the boy who used to lie in the grass and stare at the clouds for hours, the one who dreamed without filters, the one who didn't need validation to feel worthy. In those moments, he wasn't the manager or the entrepreneur or the guy who made it. He was just human, breathing, existing, feeling. And in that space, he learned something most people never do. Success isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream from a corner office or flaunt itself on social media. Success is quiet. It's a soft, steady rhythm inside your chest when you know you're living life on your own terms. It's looking in the mirror and not flinching. It's knowing that if everything was stripped away, your job, your money, your followers, you'd still have you. And that would be enough. Because the truth is, success isn't what you show the world. It's not the curated highlight reel, or the applause, or the numbers in your bank account. It's what you whisper to yourself in the dark, when no one is watching and no one is applauding. It's the voice that says, "I'm proud of how far you've come. I'm proud of who you are becoming." But if you never stop long enough to hear that whisper, if you keep running, keep performing, keep numbing, you might just spend your entire life building someone else's dream, chasing someone else's definition of enough. You might spend your whole life becoming someone you were never meant to be. And that would be the greatest tragedy of all. Most people never get there. They live their whole lives in motion, rushing from one task to the next, one dopamine hit to the next, one milestone to the next, always convinced that peace lives somewhere just around the corner. But peace doesn't live there. It never did. Peace doesn't arrive when your schedule clears or your bank account hits a certain number. Peace arrives when you stop avoiding the quiet. And that's what he finally understood. He didn't find peace in a new promotion or a new city or some spiritual retreat in the mountains. He found it in a room, alone, with no one to impress, no titles to wear, just the raw, unfiltered truth of who he was, underneath the layers of productivity and performance. That's where it begins, in the terrifying, beautiful moment when you finally sit still long enough for the noise to fade and the real you to step forward. Not the version you post online, not the version your coworkers admire, the one underneath, the one that's been quietly waiting for you to come home. He realized that silence is not the absence of life. It's the birthplace of life. And in that silence, he stopped performing and started being. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who mastered isolation. Centuries ago, while the world around him was drowning in war, betrayal, and politics, Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, was quietly journaling to himself, not to share with the world, not to publish, but to survive. Because even as an emperor, he knew that the real battle wasn't out there, it was inside. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. He had palaces, advisors, armies, but his true refuge? A quiet mind. Marcus understood what modern society often forgets. Isolation is not weakness. It's training. It's strength in its purest form. When you isolate, not to escape, but to reflect, you come back stronger, sharper, cleaner. Because when you remove yourself from the noise of the world, you begin to see how much of it was never yours to begin with. The stress, the expectations, the self-doubt, the performance, it all starts to crumble when it has no one left to perform for. Marcus wasn't afraid of the silence. He needed it. And in that silence, he discovered the deepest truth of Stoicism. You cannot control what happens in the world, but you can train your mind to remain unmoved. You can anchor yourself even as everything else shifts. That's why isolation isn't just a retreat, it's resistance. In a world that wants you to always be available, always be reacting, always be chasing. Isolation is rebellion, and clarity is the reward. But not everyone slows down. There's another man, same age, same potential, same world. But he never paused, never unplugged. He kept running. From meeting to meeting, update to update, decade to decade. He got the promotions, the bigger house, the bigger name. But somewhere along the way, he started disappearing. Smiling less, breathing shallower, thinking in bullet points, sleeping in fragments. He'll never know who he could have been, because he never gave himself the gift of stopping. And so the choice is yours. Most people will keep running, but a few will pause. A few will sit quietly in a room. A few will pick up a pen and ask themselves, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? A few will remember what it feels like to exist without chasing anything. And those few? They won't have louder lives, but they'll have deeper ones, because they've tasted something rare, something ancient, something powerful, not escape, not isolation as avoidance, but isolation as illumination, a return, a remembering, a homecoming to the self. And if you've ever heard the whisper that says, slow down, sit still, there's something here you're not facing. Listen, that whisper is your real life, asking you to stop long enough to finally begin.